Hey everyone, welcome to That's Peculiar. I'm Nathan.
I'm Andra.
And I have an episode today. But first, I do have a fun fact. So scientists really aren't sure if the color blue didn't exist before or if we had developed to be able to see the color blue.
Oh, interesting.
Because they used to describe the ocean, or they didn't have a word for it. They can't really figure out what it is. Because there used to be a word, they would call it like the ocean would be a wine dark purple, but we would call it blue. So they think either we like developed the word for it or we couldn't see blue. But the reason why I bring it up is because scientists have said that they have discovered a new color and not everybody can see it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder what.
I don't remember what the color
is.
I don't know what the color is called, but they posted a photo of what they called the closest thing to that color that they could, and it's kind of like a aqua neon kind of blue.
Can't they just post the color and see how many people see it?
It's a great question, but yeah, some people can't see it because we only have 3 cone receptors, but there are some 3 cone receptors, and then like the animal kingdom has like 4, which means they can see like a bunch of other colors and ultraviolet. Yeah,
but some people are different. Like some humans see different like shades.
Yes,
I've been told that
I can see a lot.
I've been told I can see extra shades.
Yeah,
and, like some people where they can't distinguish between like something silly. I'm trying to think like a magenta will just look like pink to somebody, and I'm like, but that's not just pink.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. I'm that person too. Like I can see like they're like, oh, if you can see like X amount of colors, you don't. And if you can see more, I'm like, I can see pretty much all of them.
We can see everything.
Yeah, but
I have a small. Keep going.
It's weird though, because like when I went to get my pilot physical, and one of the things they do is an eye color test, not eye color test, but a color blindness test.
Yeah,
and I barely passed.
So are you sure you see all of the colors?
Yeah, because I see a whole bunch of different colors all the time. All the time.
How did you barely pass red and green then?
That's my green is.
What color is this can?
Well, that's green. I can like it's when.
What color is the writing in the middle?
Blue.
No, that's green.
No, it's not. I'm not an idiot, because to me, when it's like a really light green, it starts to look kind of gray. Like I thought I had like a really interestingly gray sweatshirt one time, and someone's like, "Oh, it's green." Are you sure?
Yeah. So I'm that person. Jack does that to me all the time, and he's like you. I think he kind of confuses that too, and I'm like, dude, this is green.
It doesn't. It depends on the shade of green. It doesn't look green. It looks grayish.
It's so interesting.
Yes.
Well, it's like that black and yellow dress that some people saw blue and silver.
It's white and gold.
Some people saw black or whatever it was.
It's white and gold or blue and black. It's white and gold.
I saw both.
I hate color theory.
I legit saw both. Like once I saw the blue, and then one other time I saw the yellow, or the gold.
Looks white and gold to me.
It's not really a fun fact. It's kind of more I have a bone to pick.
But
I'm curious if anyone else. Yeah. I'm curious. TJ Maxx. But I'm curious if anybody else has had this happen. And if they had, they should write in. So these cute clips that my hair is covering, they're so cute, right? Anyways, growing out my bangs. I'm always growing out my bangs. I got these at TJ Maxx in Sonora. And they came in this like, I thought normal packaging, but it's like kind of flimsy cardboard, girls think hair tie packaging.
Yeah, okay.
Right?
Like where it's wrapped around the hair.
And it's just like in there.
Yeah, okay.
Then I go to TJ Maxx well, I didn't actually go. We went on that girls' trip. So shout out Janessa and Ashley. They went to TJ Maxx, and Ashley didn't realize they were the same pins, and I can't even blame her because she saw them and was like, "Oh my God, Andrew would love these," and then bought them for me. Bitch, this packaging is like it almost came in like a case. It's like thick, hardy.
But it was the
They
same hairpins.
Same exact brand, same exact hairpins, different packaging. Swear to God, these ones hold up better with my hair. The other ones, my hair will slip down. This has been in here all day.
Well,
No slippage.
you know that they say that brands make products specifically for TJ Maxx.
Okay, so what is the deal then if this product is made specifically for TJ Maxx? How come
Maybe it got made at a different facility.
in Reno,
Raina.
Nevada, it's Rena. How come in Reno, Nevada, it's super nice, and here in California, it's garbage?
No, sorry, I can't help you.
Well,
Maybe next time I'll have an answer.
yeah, that's go Nelly. Sorry guys.
All right,
Intermission.
so today we are actually we're going to be doing a reality check. It's the unscripted and unsettling dark side of reality TV.
Yes.
So, reality television, the term itself sounds like a promise. So, when you say reality television, it sounds like we're told that the shows are unscripted windows into ordinary people's lives or competitions where anyone can be a star. But behind that promise lies a world carefully engineered for drama, often at great human cost. So we're going to be doing a deep dive into the dark underbelly of the US reality TV industry. And so we're going to be pulling back the curtain and seeing how the sausage gets made.
Yes.
And sometimes you don't want to know.
Yeah. I would imagine.
Before we get completely started, I'm going to kind of break down what we're going to go through. So we're going to go through how the shows craft an illusion of reality, the psychological tactics producers use to shape behavior, the grueling work conditions on set, and the psychological toll on participants when the cameras stop rolling. We'll also examine the ironclad contracts and NDAs that keep contestants silent, the phenomenon of the quote-unquote villain edit, and public backlash, and finally the brewing of legal reckoning from lawsuits to a push for unionizing, which could reshape the genre. So I'll also be sharing some cited facts, quotes, and some other information about the absurdity and the gravity of it all. So here we go.
I love reality TV.
So if you've ever watched a reality show and thought this feels too perfectly dramatic to be real, you're onto something, because it turns out much of what we see is an elaborate illusion created in the edit bay. Producers and editors have a bag of tricks to shape reality into a neat, juicy storyline. One infamous trick is called frankenbiting, where dialogue is stitched together from different times or contexts to fabricate moments.
Which you have seen that so many times, especially in like commercials. They'll make it seem like something is so dramatic.
Yes.
Just that is frankenbiting right there. But continue.
And then you watch the episode and you're like, that didn't happen like they showed.
That was extreme. Yeah.
For example, Time Magazine reported that on one ABC dating show, a contestant expressed zero interest in a certain suitor, a problem for producers who needed a love story. In an interview, they casually asked her who her favorite celebrity was, and she answered Adam Sandler. Later, editors spliced out Sandler's name and dubiously dropped in an audio of her saying the suitor's name. Presto. So on TV, it looked like she declared love for the very guy she had no romantic attraction to at all. And that's manufactured romance reality style.
And this is an ABC.
This kind of manipulation is definitely not rare. That trick called Frankenbiting, and it happens more often than you may suspect, says a producer who worked on that show. In fact, even savvy viewers who know reality TV is massaged for drama may be shocked by how brazen the fudging can be.
Right.
According to that same report, quotes are sometimes outright manufactured, crushes and feuds constructed out of whole cloth, episodes planned in multi-act storyboard before taping, and scenes stitched together from footage shot days apart. So,
Right.
in other words, the drama isn't caught on camera, it's actually crafted.
Right. And it's crafted, but it's also like, to some extent, what's really happening is just like a milder version, right?
Explain what you mean.
Because they take clips and pieces and like change it to be different things. What's happening in person would look different, like on camera.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, okay, sometimes, for example, this is just, I watch Summer House, and they'll take clips, but like sometimes somebody will be having a conversation and it starts relatively normal, and then all of a sudden it's been escalated, and you're like, how did that escalate
happen?
so quickly? But it's seamless. It seems seamless in there, but what's actually happening is like a whole hour of conversation has been condensed to this section where it's like, holy crap, that person is just popping off for no reason, but that's not what's actually, there's like a whole rainbow of events in between.
Yeah, because I mean, they cut down a whole week to make a whole, an hour-long episode?
Basically.
Yeah. To illustrate, a former editor named Jeff Barch has described how he'd rearrange footage on a dating show to create excitement. If a date was boring, they might run scenes out of order or out of context. Say, cutting from a woman talking to an unrelated shot of this man looking bored, perhaps filmed when she wasn't even there. So it appeared he was tuning her out. And you can really take something black and white. You can take something that's black and make it white. Barch had admitted of reality editing.
That is, yeah, that's
so like
pretty
if they're
wild.
so like if they're rolling B-roll and they're trying just to get him, like they're just getting things set up and he's like sitting there waiting for them to actually be like, let's go. He's just sitting there like this, just bored. They can take that and use it like he was literally not interested, and that's crazy to me. So producers will even fabricate entire storylines. Do you remember MTV's Laguna Beach?
Yeah.
Its first season revolved around a love triangle that, according to a story editor on the show, didn't actually exist.
Yeah.
Two of the supposed love rivals were just friends in real life, but through clever montage and selective sound bites, the editors conjured a juicy rivalry out of thin air.
And if you guys know you guys have, if you've seen Laguna Beach, you know exactly who that's with. But I'm just gonna say, Kristen Cavallari also talked about not knowing, like in her show, she talks about how she never knew she was like the villain until it was like put out there. She like didn't know any of this was going to happen, and she didn't know like they were trying to portray her that way. And then like which I think you said you will talk about.
We're gonna talk about the villain editing. So it's weird because it's almost like playing Dollhouse with real people's lives, but in the editing room. So 1 minute of actual awkward silence can be recut into a dramatic snub. A mundane afternoon can, with spooky music and a reaction shot from a different day, become a tense showdown. And if cast members complain that the quote-unquote story on TV was a lie, well, tough luck. Most have signed their rights away, and we're going to talk more on that later. And in fact, contestants usually sign thick waivers, acknowledging that producers can edit them however necessary for a good story. So legally, they have little recourse, even if that show flat out invents something they never did or said.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But I mean, to be clear, not every reality show is total fiction. Often editors say that they're just enhancing reality to tell a clearer, punchier story. But the line between enhancement and fabrication can be pretty blurry. One
Right.
journalist quipped that reality shows manipulated is about as shocking a headline as pork rinds fattening, researchers suspect. Like,
Mm.
it's kind of expected. So, in other words,
Yeah.
of course, it's manipulated, yet knowing that doesn't make it any less troubling that the producers can essentially script without a script. And then they have the power to imply or outright fabricate things about real people who then have to carry their fake reputations into their real lives.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So that brings us to the actual people on these shows, the cast members, and how exactly the producers get real people to get them the outrageous content needed for the storylines. And that's where the psychological game comes in.
Okay.
Behind every binge-worthy reality saga is the producer or multiple producers pulling
Right.
strings. If editing is the post-production magic, producer manipulation is on set, and that's what gets contestants to behave in highly uncharacteristic or extremely amplified ways. One veteran producer summed it up bluntly that it's 100% manipulated.
Hmm.
So what they do is let's start with archetypes. So casting itself is often predicated on picking quote unquote characters. You have the hero, the villain, the hothead, the ditz, the lovebird.
Right.
Producers already have a narrative arc in mind for each person. Quote, we'll say, okay, this person we're keeping, they're going to be a villain because they'll be good television, unquote. One reality producer told Vice. On a show like The Bachelor, the lead technically chooses who stays each week, but producers will lobby real hard to keep the controversial contestants around longer than
Right.
otherwise might have.
And that
So,
is so clear that they do that because you're like, why the hell would that person keep them?
yeah, literally when they were like, I don't feel for them. I haven't had a conversation with them. But
Yeah.
then the producers will be like, okay, quote, well, maybe we'll just keep them around for another episode, they whisper, nudging the star to save the season's designated drama stir.
Right.
So that's why the blatantly toxic contestant doesn't go. It's because they make good TV.
Yeah. Sorry, did you hear my old chair
Yes, I've been
creaking?
hearing it this whole time.
I'm sorry, I was uncomfortable.
So producers will also control the environment to an extreme degree. One method is simple. You give them copious amounts of alcohol and cut off other comforts. So an explosive legal letter sent to NBC Universal's lawyers recently described, quote, deliberate attempts to manufacture mental instability by plying cast members with alcohol while depriving them of food and sleep, unquote.
Oh,
Yeah, they keep them up for
because at
long.
first I was like, what do you mean other comforts? I was like,
Yeah, they will
oh,
do
they
that.
literally take food and like a bed away from
They'll
them?
give them little, well, what they'll do is they'll keep them awake for long periods of time and keep recording, and then they'll give them very minimal food. So their idea is to lower the inhibitions and heighten their emotions. So many of the reality sets are isolated pressure cookers, and contestants, as you've seen, live sequestered from the outside world with no phones, no news, no music, books, and sometimes no clocks.
How have people not ended up like way too drunk? And maybe they have. It
They
seems like they
have.
have.
They definitely have.
Way too drunk where they're like, I'm gonna pass out.
Probably.
That's not good.
I mean, but they can edit all that out, right? So so literally these reality stars, they only have the one job, which is to focus on the drama at hand. And then producers will prod and poke psychologically, conducting marathon interviews, exposing insecurities, sometimes even lying to cast members to elicit reactions.
Hmm.
So there's actually a jaw-dropping confession from Sarah Gertrude Shapiro. She's a former Bachelor producer who later created the scripted satire Unreal, which I think is on Hulu.
It's on it's on
Is it
Netflix
on Netflix?
last I saw it. I tried to watch a couple of episodes, but I didn't get very far in.
Yeah, it's on my list, but I always forget that exists. Uh, So
Tim I don't know if I can say his name. Someone I used to work with told me about this story.
okay. She said her job on The Bachelor was essentially to befriend contestants and then manipulate them. Quote, my
Mm.
was to get the contestants to open up and give them terrible advice and to deprive them of sleep, Shapiro recalls. She calls it complicated manipulation through friendship.
Which happened in Unreal. I did watch, like, you'll know that in the very first episode. There's one girl who does that.
Yeah, I feel like Unreal is very real, like on what they do. So
I think that's true, yeah.
what's really happening is this producer is acting as your confidant, encouraging your hopes, only to use that trust to steer you into more chaos and drama.
Right.
Yeah. I would kind of enjoy that job, I'm not gonna
I
lie.
know you would.
I would feel so bad about it. But at the same time, it's like, ooh, look what I can do.
I would be terrible at that job.
Oh, I think I would not keep any stories straight. And people would be like, but last time you said it, and I'd be like, oh, that's right, I did, didn't I?
No, I think I'd keep people's stories straight. I'm just so like, I'd be like, fuck that guy. You hate him. You don't
He
like him.
is a bad person. So Shapiro has openly described some morally dubious tricks that she'd pulled. For instance, if a contestant was about to be dumped by the Bachelor, Shapiro might visit her beforehand and then feed her false hope and say, I'm going to lose my job for telling you this, but he's going to pick you. He's going to propose. That's what she would tell them. Of course, it was a lie. When the unsuspecting
Right.
woman was unceremoniously rejected later that day, her heartbreak was far more raw and devastating, which is exactly what the cameras need for a good TV show.
That's really sad.
And there's more. Shapiro even admitted to carrying jalapeno peppers in her pocket so she could secretly dab her own eyes and start crying during the breakup ride home, hoping that the contestants would mirror the emotion and break down into sobbing too. So producers literally used fake tears as a tool. She recounted being instructed not to come home if we didn't get the tears from the women, meaning literally that their jobs were to get these women to have
Tears, yeah.
breakdowns. Isn't that something? That's crazy.
Yeah.
Like these are not scripted actresses told to cry on cue. They're real people being psychologically nudged and sometimes outright deceived to generate a storyline.
I just don't even know. Like, I realize she left. I just don't know if I could do that job in the first place. I'm not judging anyone necessarily. I'm judging a little.
I feel
People who
like
can.
I feel like there are people who probably start with really good intentions, and then because they want to make it, then they start getting told they have to do these things, and so then you slowly start to chip away at your own morals.
No, I think that's totally right. It's kind of like, weirdly enough, like nurses. They start out like, I'm going to save a bunch of people, but after some amount of people pass away, their bedside manner sometimes becomes a little bit colder because they think of a person as a job instead of, I would imagine that it's a terrible comparison because, people, but I feel like it's probably something or how about beauticians that make up, what is the corpses beauticians? What are those called?
A
I think
mortician?
my girl. No, it's not a mortician.
Doesn't the
Is
mortician
it?
do the makeup?
Oh, is it a mortician?
Yeah, do the ones who get them ready for their death day.
Then a mortician, like, I would imagine the first couple of times you saw a person like that, you're like, oh my gosh.
And
then
you
you're
start
like,
to get used to it being a body, not a
yeah, and then
person.
eventually it's a job. And I would imagine that you're right. That's probably a similar, or like being a cop.
Oh,
Go
absolutely.
into it.
Any job, really.
Not pouring wine, I can.
Well, sometimes as a flight attendant, I'm like, ugh, people.
I can say that I actively really enjoy all the people I'm with, and I rarely look at a person like a job, but I do look at wine like it's a job, and sometimes it's less fun to drink now, so. That's
There you
like
go.
my connection, but you're right. I guess there is always a connection, even if it's like people versus wine.
Uh, so producers have been known to isolate contestants, spark paranoia, fuel jealousy, and even instigate conflicts. They
Right.
might deliberately tell one contestant a half truth about another to create fiction, or encourage someone to confront a friend over a trivial matter, then sit back and watch the fireworks happen. They'll
Right.
flatter, they'll intimidate, they play life coach, devil's advocate, whatever it takes to get the reaction that they're looking for. And one producer even likened some of the tactics to what cult leaders do, exploiting trust and psychological pressure. And going to alcohol is a favorite instrument of manipulation. Many dating and party themed reality shows feature an endless open bar. And
Right.
that's on purpose. One lawsuit alleges that only drinks consistently provided on set were alcoholic, while water was restricted. A boozy cast is volatile, and people become less inhibited, more emotional, quicker to anger or affection. And then you're pairing that with sleep deprivation. Contestants often only get a few hours of sleep during late nights of filming, and that gives you the perfect recipe for extreme behavior.
I would be in the bathtub, like drinking the water. I'd be like, what is wrong with you guys?
I need
Also, like,
water.
I'm not a person that can drink like that and like survive.
No, I like to. I don't know. I always wonder like how
Like,
long filming actually is.
how do they survive and then drink the very next day? Like, how is this possible without them being hungover and looking all crazy the next day?
I don't know. Tylenol.
Like, do they also have the hangover cure for all this crap they're
They
doing?
must.
Like, I don't understand how they look all bright and shiny the next day if they're not just super hungover.
Makeup.
I don't know.
So to me, it sounds like a mad social experiment, and it kind of is. But if you or I were put into this bizarre bubble, cut off from reality, lied to, emotionally toyed with, of course you're going to start acting crazy too. And contestants would often say later that that wasn't really me, but under those conditions, it was, or at least the
Right.
version of them that's under these psychological pressures and lack of sleep and copious amounts of alcohol that's orchestrated, so it's forced on them. I kind of victim, I feel like they're like victims in a way.
It's also sad, and I'm to blame in this too. There's been people that have like said that, and they're like, under these circumstances, I'm not myself, and I think I'm needing to leave. Like, Survivor, it happens a lot, and I hope Survivor is not super scripted, 'cause that'll just bum me out.
I feel like Survivor isn't one of those that's super heavily manipulated, but I'm sure it is, because they need to get this person to say
Like,
that
slightly
thing.
at least.
Yeah, of course it is. But I mean, they're
I
also
don't know that
they have.
those people on there are also like sometimes shocking, and you're like, you just did what?
Well, yeah, that's kind of people that they cast.
Well, you're right. But I love Survivor. But like, okay, I just watched the new reality Netflix show, and it's like called, well, we didn't get into that very well. It's something about adult campers who were previously reality TV stars. It's new. Watch it if you want. But there's one guy on
Is it
there.
Battle Camp?
Yeah, that sounds right.
I have no idea.
That
It's new
sounds right.
Netflix.
But Battle Camp is about basically reality stars on previous reality TV shows, like Shuby. I love Shuby. Put inside of a camp, and they have to like do all these tasks, and like it's pretty
Challenges.
scary. Yeah, that they're doing, and then they get put on a wheel, and kind of fate actually takes them out, which I kind of like. I like that
Is
it's
it?
not like, well, to an extent, yeah, you're right. I don't
Is
know.
it? Is the wheel actually have controls on it that we don't see?
Maybe. But there is a guy who leaves the show after this girl leaves. And I'm not giving anything away. It's just somebody leaves the show at some point, and I was like, hmm, hmm.
Some people
And
do.
now
Some people got to get out because they just can't handle it.
well, now I'm wondering if like it was a mixture of all of that, because they do always drink.
It could be. It could be very well be, and it could be like, I don't want to do this again. I already did this on a previous reality show. And I don't like it. Not enough money. You cannot pay me enough money to do it. It could be one of those things too, because everybody's just in it for love, or they're in it for the money. Love. So one anonymous producer noted that they can hand you a quote hero edit or a quote villain cut in the final show, but you still have to do really dodgy things for a full villain edit. In other words, the footage that of your misdeeds has to exist in some form, and producers are very skilled at leading contestants towards those misdeeds. They can't force words into your mouth unless they're doing the freaking biting, but they can set you up to fail. So we have the heavily manipulated situations and people pushed to the limits. And we're going to talk about those limits, specifically the working conditions that contestants endure while this is happening to them.
Right.
So reality TV might be $1 billion industry, but for the people on screen, barring, the megastars on certain franchises, it often doesn't pay much. And it certainly doesn't pay like in comfort. Contestants are typically not unionized, not considered employees of the show, and thus not subject to normal labor protections that the actors or crew get. So they get long hours, little to no pay, and sometimes very inhumane conditions.
Right.
So one of the examples that came to light was in Netflix's Love is Blind. In 2022, a contestant named Jeremy Hartwell filed a lawsuit describing what really went on behind the scenes. According to his lawsuit, the Love is Blind cast was misclassified as independent contractors instead of employees, so producers could bypass labor laws like overtime. Hartwell says that they worked up to 20 hours a day, 7 days a week, for only $1,000 per week, which is only about $7 an hour if you do the math, which is less than half of the minimum wage in Los Angeles, where the show is filmed.
Right.
So effectively, they're working kind of in a sweatshop with a luxury setting. But my thing too, though, for me personally, I don't see how that's considered working when you signed up to be on a game show.
Yeah, I don't see it that way either. I understand film. Like, yeah, I understand where the gray area is because you're also you're getting lodging, you're getting food.
Are you getting food? Are you getting limited food? Are you getting mostly
Well,
alcohol?
even limited, but like that's all free, right?
I would
They're
think it
not
would be part
paying
of
for
their.
it.
Yeah.
So to me, if you were to go out, let's just say you were doing the same thing, how much would you spend on even limited food and
That's
limited drinks?
One thing that's weird to me is like if I am in a competition for anything, like if I'm in a competition for like $1 million or whatever, and I have to live in a place, like I wouldn't expect to be paid because I am in a competition that they just happen to be filming. That's how I would think about it. Is like I signed up for this.
Exactly.
Like I
Yeah,
didn't.
that's how I've always thought of it. I thought people quit their jobs to like go on Survivor, hoping they win.
Yeah.
Not because they're getting paid
A daily stipend or whatever
while being on Survivor, and also, they're an exception to the rule. They get like no alcohol, but they also get no drinks
they
or
get
like
nothing.
So like I can't say that they are living in luxury, like they even have to build their own houses, but like the Love is Blind, they're like straight up
they have
living in luxury.
All that stuff.
So I don't know where I fall in this, because
it's weird to think about the payment, right?
I do understand where the person is coming from, and at first I was like, oh yeah, but I also totally understand, like, okay, but you
Yeah, you're not a character on Grey's Anatomy.
signed up to
Yeah.
leave your job. Yeah, you're not an actor.
Yeah. You might want to be, but you're not right now. You're on a reality TV show.
I just don't know where I want to help you out. I don't want to help you out.
Oh,
Devil
I don't know
meets
how to
angel.
feel.
Angel
Yeah.
meets devil. Who's gonna win?
The lawsuit also alleges that producers had complete domination over when cast members could eat, sleep, and use their phones to contact the outside world. They would reportedly be left alone for hours with no phone, no food, and nothing to do until the producers needed them. And while solid food and rest were scarce, guess what flowed freely? Alcohol.
Yeah.
The only drinks that defendants regularly provided to the cast were alcoholic beverages, soft drinks, energy drinks, and mixers, the lawsuit stated. While water
Dude,
was
I'd be drinking Bloody Marys that whole time. Like, that's all I want. Bloody Marys.
water was strictly limited. And I think there's also a reason why they also all their glasses always are like gold or they're not see-through, they're opaque. So you can't see, so they can edit it easier. And you can't be like, see, this glass was full when they first started this conversation, and now it's even more full at the end of the conversation.
I understand, except the show I'm talking about, the like battle one.
Oh yeah.
Their glasses are totally clear, but they don't often show them drinking. But when they do, it's like a shot of them drinking and their glass is like full. And then I'm like, I have wondered several times in that show, I'm like, they've been drinking this whole time. Like, how do you freaking climb a wall like that if you're drinking this whole time?
And like we're talking about people, they're mostly given cocktails and Red Bull. And then their water is rationed. So if that sounds like a recipe for dehydration and drunken meltdowns, that's the point. Hartwell's complaint argues that this cocktail of extreme hours, isolation, hunger, and alcohol was used to break down the cast's normal defenses and judgment to make them pliable and dramatic.
Yeah.
So imagine running on a few hours of sleep, hungry, cut off from friends, and someone to keep topping off your wine glass. It's 2 a.m., you're emotionally fried, and they want you to have a tough conversation on camera right now.
That's when they choose to do it.
Yes, and of course,
It has always been suspicious to me when they do choose that, like in the middle of a party after drinking, and the person's like, "Can we talk?"
yeah.
I'm like,
And you're like,
you
I'm
could talk
hammered.
any time of day, but you choose right then.
I am not okay to have this conversation right now.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about the pay again because it's minimal to none. So they aren't paid salaries, and they do get a small stipend or a per diem at best. And again, going back to Hartwell's $1,000 per week example, that's a relatively generous for certain genres. Some game or dating show participants get $0 beyond room and board. The prize or exposure is deemed as their compensation, and because
Well,
they're
Survivor's probably the same too, right?
probably because they're in it for a huge sum of money, and because they're not considered employees, they typically don't have health insurance, no workman's comp if they're injured, no guaranteed meal breaks, nothing. So Hartwell's lawsuit seeks damages for unpaid wages and missed meal breaks because his case, they allegedly denied the cast proper food and rest periods required by law. This to me still doesn't make sense because like you're not an employee.
Right.
Yeah. That was magic. For those of you who aren't watching this, she just reaches her hand off camera and then she slowly brings it back and it is a full glass of beer.
I'm just trying to show everyone how this reality TV works.
Yes, that's how reality TV works.
Mm-hmm.
So, if a contestant can't take it anymore and wants to quit the show, it's not as simple as walking out. Reality TV contracts often have harsh penalties for quitting early. Love is Blind cast members were allegedly told that leaving before filming wrapped up would incur a $50,000 fine for breach of contract. So
Right.
essentially, a massive debt hanging over their head to discourage any flight risk. And that kind of threat instills fear and keeps contestants obedient, Hartwell's attorney noted.
So I understand, like, okay, let me word this properly. I understand the contract.
Yeah.
I understand finding people if they leave. That's a
Mhm.
contestant, like, that's somebody they can't replace, although it does add to the drama. But, like, let's say 5 people wanted to leave at once. Like, that's not great for a show.
It's not great for a show, but also what does that say about the producers of the show?
Right. But on the other hand, so I understand the contract, I understand the fine. On the other hand, I would imagine that if I was just being fed alcohol, no water, like, I want to know how bad it is, because I'm like, I could drink all day for a
And be
day,
okay, yeah.
but like, if you want me to do this for like 2 weeks, you're gonna get a version of me that's like throwing up. I'm gonna look like trash. Like, I
Then
don't understand.
they would probably use that and make you the messy one.
Exactly. So unless they have a hangover cure, I don't really understand how they expect people to do this. So I would understand wanting to leave
Mhm.
under those circumstances and for those reasons. But if you sign up for a reality TV show, don't you expect to leave until you get kicked off?
Yeah,
Or don't you expect to stay until you
I would expect to, but if I feel like I'm being mistreated in any sort of way, I'm gonna
that's
GTFO because
that's the part where I'm just like,
I don't want to be held hostage in a villa with an open bar.
yes, only an open bar with no, like, I understand even the food. I understand you can't eat the whole time, but like, give me water.
No, alcohol and Red Bull. And these conditions aren't unique to one show. Reports from various reality series echo similar themes: marathon filming days that stretch past midnight, little downtime, isolation from any support system, and often a producer telling you when you can eat or sleep. One UK reality producer compared aspects of these shows to a controlled environment akin to a cult, where normal reality
Yeah.
is distorted and the leaders, the producers, dictate the terms of daily life. And it may sound extreme, but contestants have described feeling truly disoriented and dependent on their handlers during production.
Yeah, I would feel that way too.
Yeah. So some people do make it out of the shows and come out just fine and happy if they got famous or they found love or they won lots of money. But many others do emerge with real issues. And for a tragic few, the experience is linked to lasting trauma and even loss of life, which brings us to the toll of the psychological part of reality TV.
Right. This is the hard part.
It's the aftermath. So when the cameras
Yeah.
stop rolling, the story isn't over for these reality TV people. In fact, for
Right.
some of them, that's when the real reckoning begins, because that combination of public exposure, manipulation, and sudden isolation, once filming is over and all the production support vanishes, you're very alone, can be a very a mental health minefield. So over the years, there have been numerous reports of depression, anxiety, PTSD like symptoms, and even suicides among reality show participants.
Right.
So, for example, Gia Alamand, she was a sweet natured contestant from the Bachelor franchise. She appeared on The Bachelor in 2010 and later on a spin off called The Bachelor Pad. While The Bachelor itself wasn't a negative experience for her, Bachelor Pad turned out to be devastating. So the producers on Bachelor Pad portrayed Gia as something she was
Yeah.
not. They edited the footage to make it look like she was cheating on her real life boyfriend with another contestant. In re-
Boy.
in reality, she wasn't interested in a romance on the show. She even had a boyfriend back home going in, but clever editing showed her flirting and implied an affair. This scarlet letter, essentially destroyed her life, is what her mother had said. Viewers believed that her boyfriend saw it and broke up with her. She was viciously harassed online as a cheater. The stress and
Right.
shame led Gia into a dark spiral. She attempted suicide once while the show was airing, and her mother actually intervened at the time. And she even quit Bachelor Pad early in the later season, telling hosts that I can't do this anymore and it's killing me. Despite that cry for help that never came, August 2013, a couple years after her last reality TV appearance, she died by suicide. Her mother was on the phone with her during her final moments. She was only 29 years old.
Yeah, I just looked it up in New Orleans.
Mm-hmm. And her story is not alone. There's at least 28 former
Right.
reality TV stars that have died by suicide worldwide as of 2020.
You said how many?
28 at least.
Wow.
That's as far as the estimates. Some estimates say that is higher, but this specific list does span shows in countries from high profile cases in the UK to US shows like American Idol, and weirdly enough, even Storage Wars.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, that one strikes me as kind of odd. Like, anyway, but within the Bachelor franchise alone, this is, a very sobering statistic. And while we can't say that reality TV caused each of these tragedies, but the mental health is complex and many factors contribute. And it's clear that the pressures and aftermath of these shows can definitely exacerbate underlying issues or create new ones. So the intense psychological stress during filming is what also really drives it. That sleep deprivation, the emotional manipulation, being cut off, it just leaves people feeling very fragile. And so this is what kind of creates that perfect recipe to create anxiety or depression during production without fully realizing it, because all you're trying to do during the game is focus on the show, focus on the game. So you're not really.
I would also imagine like the aftermath of how they edit
That
those
too.
versions of you would create even more. Like you just said with Gia, like I would imagine that that would actually be more depressing because you might go into it thinking you look like a sweetheart and come out of it thinking you look like a sweetheart, and they might make you look like America's wild and crazy, and then you end up dealing with that not just with like people that don't know you, but you deal with that with people that do know you, and that could be worse actually.
Yeah, the people that like I thought I knew you, and you're like, that is me. They edited it badly.
Yeah, and you're like, how do I tell you that this is not real?
And it's also for me, I think about like, so during production you have all these people around you, have all this stuff, but then once the filming wraps up, contestants are dropped back into the real world with no support. And so, and then there's no fame training, no counseling, unless the show has major problems. And then the show comes out, and now you're getting attention again. And it could be different based off of your experience versus what they edited. One psychologist who works on reality TV participants noted that some shows do offer aftercare. Not everyone offers it, and it depends on the budget of the network. So in other words, a contestant's care is often an afterthought, a line item that some productions skip completely. And a lot of cast members, especially on big ensemble shows, report feeling that they're used and discarded. So one day
sorry, keep going.
So one day you're the center of attention with producers guiding your every move, and then you're on a plane home alone with an NDA in hand, and then you're left to process the whole experience by yourself.
There is a show, Summer House, that I love. And there's a contestant, well, not contestant, he's just on the show. I don't know why I said it, contestant. He's not a contestant. There is a reality star, Wes, on there. And everyone is giving this guy such a hard time. And I get because he dated a girl.
Is this the one where he's like from the small town, and then all the girls are like, and like TikTok? It's been all over TikTok recently.
No, he is, yeah, because the season just premiered.
Okay, yeah, and they're like, he's not a nice guy.
Yeah, everybody's reaming into him.
Yeah.
And Wes, to me, so it could be one of two people. It could be Wes, but it could also be Jesse Solomon. So either, because doesn't matter. I'm on both of their sides, not because I'm a girl's girl. I'm not a guy's person, you know? You know that about me in real life, but they made him appear so poorly. But the thing is, like, I understand what he did to Sierra. Basically, he dated somebody in the summer house. And then after the summer house in the winter, it didn't work out. And now she's been a main bee on the show for a minute. So it's like she kind of runs the house where Wes is just kind of trying to follow her lead and still be in the house during the summer.
Okay.
I don't know if this is making sense unless you watch the show. But basically, like, I'm on her side. Like, I get where she's coming from. But I also feel like their scenario really heightens how you feel about a person.
Yeah.
And then in real life, when you introduce to your friends, family, all of that, it might actually be a little different when you're not in that heightened scenario and you exit. That's the same with like The Bachelor and The Bachelorette. People are always like, "Oh, they break up all the time."
They
And I'm like, "Yeah,
do.
but they're literally put in situations where they're like falling from the sky
It's
to
literally,
fall in love."
and you're getting a helicopter ride to the most amazing dinner you've ever had in your life. That's not real life. Of course you're gonna fall in
Yeah.
love with them. You didn't pay for
And
that.
then the second it goes into real life, you're like,
Ew, I don't
one,
like
this
you.
guy never planned any of these dates. This
No.
didn't happen.
Yeah.
And I just feel like everybody's crapping on him because he decided the relationship didn't work while he got a lot of attention for with other gals.
Yeah.
And he is being open about that. And I think that's something what you were talking about related to like the fame mental health care.
Mhm.
Nobody gave him like the aftermath of the show from my understanding.
Yeah.
He even talks about that. He said, I didn't expect people to be flooding in wanting to like
Yeah.
hang out with me. And then he had this relationship that didn't work out. And
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's going into like, the public exposure. So like once the show airs, and then, the contestants, they face that sudden blast of attention. And it's
Yeah.
not always positive that we just discussed. So the person might go,
Yeah. Sometimes it's super negative. Yeah.
yes. So the person goes from obscurity to having thousands of social media messages overnight, some praising them, but some hurling insults or worse. And
Right.
reality TV show fans are fiercely judgmental, and they often forget that they saw the highly edited version of the person. And so so those who got the villain edit become public enemies, and even likable participants can face trolling. For someone
That's me.
already emotionally worn down, the tidal wave of public opinion can be overwhelming. Former Love Island stars from the UK described getting death threats after being painted as the villains on the show. And in the US Southern Charms, Ashley Jacobs, who we'd heard from earlier, received death threats and relentless online abusing after being unfairly edited and painted as a crazy person on the show. People are terrible, flooding her Twitter and Instagram with insults and negativity, a source told People magazine about Ashley's experience. Imagine trying to mentally recover from traumatic filming, and now you're going to be hit with it every time you look at your phone, of someone messaging you or commenting.
Right.
And what's worse is some participants don't even fully recognize how traumatized or affected that they are until later. So
Right.
during production, they might have had a show provided therapist to do a check-in. Many shows do have a mental health professional on standby during filming. But as one psychologist noted, there's no regulation or consistency to aftercare or even to heeding the advice of the on-set psychologists. In past instances, mental health professionals on reality shows have complained that their warnings were ignored when a contestant was psychologically unfit, because producers,
Right. They
drama
think
equals good
that is
TV.
gold. Yeah.
Yes, and it doesn't matter
Now,
if it's dangerous to the person.
I'm curious about your opinion. So say everything stays the same. Say money stays the same,
What do you mean?
alcohol, like
Like
the
currently?
conditions. Yeah. So
Oh,
let's
okay.
just say everything stays the same, but the mental health is provided afterwards
Yeah.
and during. Do you think that actually would change much?
I honestly think that they can do reality shows without the manipulation. They just have to find the right people, which does take time. But like I was talking to flight attendants and like our
Mm-hmm.
jobs are insane. The people we deal with are insane. And if they like and you don't have to try to make good TV out of this. It just happens. Yeah, a lot of flights go off without a hitch, but then, you have people who don't know how to open a bathroom door. They don't know where the bathroom is. They try to walk into my closet. There was a girl who the
Yeah.
closet in the front was open and the passenger was drunk. And instead of going into the bathroom, the passenger pulled down her pants and peed on her luggage that was in the closet. Yes. So crazy things happen. But
When I lived,
they'll never make a reality TV show with flight attendants because that puts way too much liability on an airline with the FAA.
I mean, I do understand that though, because you'd have to get like passengers to sign it, and it's a whole thing. But when I worked at the,
Because you could just blur their faces.
yeah, but you could also just do a fake show, like the Unreal show.
I was thinking that they could do something like The Office, but with flight attendants.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think that would be, yeah, I think that'd be fun.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have mixed reviews about it because you're right. On some extent, some of these people are signing up for this.
They are. They're signing their
Right? Like, are
NDAs
you
and their
telling me there's
agreements.
no, but yeah, that's what I mean. Are you telling me there's no disclosure? Now, if they're being told they're not going to be given water all the time and just like spoon-fed alcohol,
Mm-hmm.
somebody should look into that
Mm-hmm.
because that's the part that's bothering me the most. But I think the rest of the stuff, like they've kind of signed up for this. But I think what they don't sign up for is the aftermath, the story they created.
They're not signing up for the story that they created, but people often do reality shows because they want to be famous. So they want that
Right.
fame, but at what price?
Exactly. So that's where I'm like, even if it stayed the same, even if they did other than the alcohol and no water, I think water should be unlimited everywhere you go. I don't
And
give a shit what you say.
food should be easily accessible unless it's a Survivor type
I mean,
show.
at least like somewhat easily accessible. I do understand like you want to create meal time, but like, can you have some granola bars in the
Something.
back? Like,
Yeah.
I'm not saying like feed them like a feast every
A
hour, but
handful of
like,
nuts.
yeah. But I think if they left it the exact same, just gave them water, unlimited, and some little snacks, all of that would be so fun. Like, I understand you want to get a person drunk. The person who's gonna get drunk like that is going to get drunk like that.
Yeah.
With the snacks, with the
It
water.
won't matter what they got.
You're gonna
Yeah.
have the drama.
Yeah.
It's just gonna maybe be the person who was gonna be
Mhm.
there in the first place and not the person that you cultivated.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know.
So with the gaps in these tragic cases and with the mental health and several high profile suicides in British reality TV, there was a loud public call for these changes that we're talking about. The
Mm,
UK's media regulator issued new rules requiring better care for reality participants, and one network
good.
there actually guarantees at least 8 therapy sessions for each contestant after filming, and
Yes.
proactive check-ins for 14 months post-show, which is a start.
Beautiful. Just do
Yes,
that.
it's in the
All of
UK.
them.
But in the US, there is no such industry-wide standard to exist yet. So any
Are we
improvements
surprised?
No. So any improvements in this for the cast are care is voluntary and reactive to the tragedies and the scandals that unfold. So, but I will say that some shows and networks have begun waking up to the mental health issues. So by waking up to it, I mean you might see if you or someone you know is struggling, here's a hotline message at the end of an episode. Yeah, or
my name is Steve, blah, 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 and I'm here for you. Did you undergo blah, blah, blah?
that, yes. So there are a few shows that offer post-film counseling, especially if something clearly traumatic happened on camera, like a contestant was assaulted or there was a breakdown on air. It's just something that's really extra heavy. But as one expert put it, what constitutes effective aftercare is still blurry.
Yeah.
And how long should a show be responsible for a person's mental health? 6 months? A year? At some point, networks tend to throw their hands up and say, "You're on your own," because, how long?
Yeah. So through the premiere is what I would say, and maybe 2 sessions after.
I think that you should give them a couple sessions after the show to see where they are, and then depending on what their needs are, a few more. But my thing is, after that show airs, the show needs to check back in on them because of how they got edited to look terrible.
No, so I think they should be through the premiere of the
Come here.
show
I
and
heard
through it.
production.
No, so I think they should be in charge of mental health until the show airs all the way through, and then maybe 2 sessions afterwards to get them through. Then I agree, you can't be in charge of this person's mental health for the rest of your
No, you
days.
signed up for this.
But I think at least understanding you might be aired a certain way, being in charge of therapy at least through airing is the least you can do.
Absolutely.
The best you can probably do is several sessions afterwards and maybe a check-in a year later.
Especially if they're not making much money off of it anyway.
Yeah. That is just so crazy.
The bottom line is that contestants often pay the price that viewers and producers don't actually see. So in some heartbreaking cases, the families have come forward to directly link a lack of support to their loved one's demise. And lawyers representing reality cast members have even accused networks of denying mental health treatment to cast members, displaying obvious and alarming signs of mental deterioration during production.
Right.
So all of this points to the systemic issues of how reality TV treats the human subjects. So, and I know by now you're wondering how, why, because we've said it multiple times that people sign up for this. So now we're going to get into why they would sign into this, what the contractual entrapments look like, the waivers and the unfair legal power. And we're going to get into that next time on That's Peculiar.
I'm so excited! Our first Nathan part 2, and I didn't even know it was happening.
Yeah, so next time we'll get into NDAs and all that stuff, going even further.
Great.
So if you have been on a reality show, please leave a comment. I'm very curious, and I would like to possibly talk to you and talk about your experience. And so
I'm going to talk about it here and next time. I just think we should normalize shows like the Great British Baking Show.
We have the Great American Baking Show now.
I don't care about the Great American Baking Show.
I haven't watched it yet. I think it's on Netflix.
To be fair, I haven't watched it, but the Great British Baking Show is not about the drama. They root for each other. They just go in, they bake, they go home.
What if I told you that the hosts of the Great British Baking Show are also the hosts of the Great American Baking Show?
You're telling me Noel?
I don't know if it's Noel, but I know that it's gosh, what's his name? I watch this every night. I think it's Prue and Paul Hollywood. I think are still the judges.
It's Prue. Those are judges.
Oh yeah, whatever hosts judges.
Noel and this beautiful British.
Are you talking about Sandy, the short lady? Short blonde.
No, she's gone. She left.
Sandy left.
It was Matt something, and then it was
Matt something. Oh, the
this one
guy.
Yeah. They left, and now it's the girl who says kiss, just like that.
I'm not that far yet. I'm on like season 7.
I think people need to understand that show is far more engaging for people like me than like the fake drama. And can we just normalize that? Until next time, I'll remind everyone in the next episode. Okay?
All right. Tune in next time for part 2 of reality TV.
Okay, bye.
Thank you for joining us today on That's Peculiar.
If you have participated in a reality TV show, send us an email to perpetuallypeculiarpod@gmail.com because we want to talk to you. Tune in next week for part 2 of reality TV.